Hey everyone, this is Sasha.
And Claire.
And this is
Dare to Rise.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dare to Rise with your hosts Claire and Sasha.
Hey.
Today we are going to talk about books that we have read and how they've impacted us. These are all books that we highly recommend to others.
Yeah, and we could probably go on and on and on about this topic.
Our outline, guys, is 6 pages long. Just saying.
And we're going to try to squeeze that in to a half hour.
We'll do our
No
best.
promises.
Yes.
All right, so the first book that I have on my list is The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin. And this book, I've mentioned it multiple times before, but it's a really, really good book just to give you a different perspective on happiness in general. So the synopsis I wrote down, Gretchen Rubin evaluated what it means to be happy and then took a year to make herself happier. She wasn't necessarily unhappy, but she knew she could be happier. And so the book follows her along her plan, dividing the areas of her life she wanted to improve by 12 months. So like 1 month she focused on energy, getting the right amount of sleep and improving herself and getting exercise. 1 month she dedicated to family, improving her relationships with her family and friends, and each month is a different take. She uses her 12 commandments to keep her on track. So her 12 commandments were basically a list of things that she should follow to make sure that she is achieving her goals of becoming happier each month. So my takeaway is that many problems can be solved by changing our own behavior. And a good example of this is she has a similar thing with her husband that she writes about in the book. But for me, it's the endless dishes fight. A lot of couples have this.
Yes,
Who's going to do the dishes? When are they going to do the dishes?
It's your turn to do the dishes. I did the cooking, so you should do the dishes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I've been there.
And so the fight that my wife and I have is I like to have the dishes done right after dinner so that they are done and you don't have to worry about them the rest of the night.
And they don't get encrusted on the dish, making it even harder to clean.
For me, I just want it done, said and done.
Yep.
Don't have to like rush to do it before bed. I can do it, and then when I want to go to bed, I can just get up and go to bed. I don't have to do anything first.
And then also when you wake up the next morning, there aren't a shitload of dishes in the sink. What an awesome thing to wake up to.
Yeah, especially if you try to cook and the sink is full of dishes and you can't get in there to work.
Forget it.
Crazy.
I gotcha. The struggle.
But Tiffany, she doesn't care as much when the dishes get done. She's perfectly fine at the end of the night, right before we go to bed, doing the dishes. No problem. But I get angry when the dishes are not done after dinner. What Gretchen kind of explains and goes into in this book is that that's a me problem, not a Tiffany problem. If she wants to do the dishes when she wants to do the dishes, I shouldn't pressure her to do it earlier. And if I want the dishes done at a certain time, I should just do it myself. And that's going to eliminate a lot of fighting. So for me, I'm like, you know what? If I want the dishes done right after dinner, I'm just going to do them. And I just do them. And then I'm done, and I don't have to have the anxiety. We don't have to have the fight. We don't have to have anything. And all of that came from just me changing my behavior. Instead of putting the expectations on her, I take the 5 minutes after dinner, do the dishes, and I'm done.
Do you ever feel like you're doing the dishes all the time and then...
Yeah.
Does
that comes
become
up.
a problem?
But what I noticed, actually, is I've been doing this for a while, where I'm just like, you know what? If I'm the one who wants it done, then I'm just going to do it. So what I've been noticing is I'm doing the dishes right after dinner, and I'm putting them in the dishwasher, washing them, putting them in the dishwasher, whatever. And what I've noticed is now sometimes Tiffany will just do it.
Right after dinner?
Right after dinner, she'll just go do it.
Wow.
Without me having to get angry, without me having to say anything or ask her. But there's also times where sometimes I just let it go until bedtime. And so it's finding that compromise. So it's like if you don't get angry and you don't yell at them, they will more likely do the behavior that you want them to do without you having to ask.
Making it into a big argument.
Yeah. And so because like most of the time, like after dinner, all she wants to do is relax. She just wants to sit on the couch and relax. But by me taking that action of just like after dinner, I just started doing the dishes. She started to help me with it by just being and passing me dishes and stuff. And then what's happened is now she's just been like, oh, this is just what we do. And it's just become a habit. And so it's either me or her after dinner doing the dishes. Yeah, sometimes we do leave the dishes until we go to bed. Sometimes we don't have dishes at all because we ordered out or something. It's much more manageable and we're not fighting about it anymore. And that's huge. And that's what this book taught me.
The dishes dilemma that every couple faces. That's a big hurdle to overcome. So and you know, sometimes they still get angry. It's part of life. But the thing is that if I want something done my way, do it yourself. That's a fact of life. And some of the quotes about this they're not specifically about the dishes situation, but a really good quote from this book is, one of the best ways to make yourself happy is to make other people happy. One of the best ways to make other people happy is to be happy yourself. Ooh. So the way that I view this and how it pertains to the dishes dilemma is that I was unhappy and I was lashing out at Tiffany for not doing the dishes. And by making Tiffany happy and letting her relax on the couch while I do the dishes, then made her happier and then her more willing to help me out, which made me happier. So it's kind of like a cycle. It's like a win-win-win too.
And so it's like if you are happy and you're doing the thing that's good for them and they're giving back, like it's going to be a nice give and take.
Yeah. And like I said, like it's a win-win for both of you guys. And it's a win for the overall relationship. Less fighting, less drama, all of that. So it shows you when you come from a place of like when you're happy and fulfilled and working and operating from your highest good, how that can then percolate into other people and situations and etc.
And I even have my 12 commandments on my phone
that you made yourself.
That I made myself. I used a lot of hers because I thought they were really good, and I've kind of did some research and kind of tailored them a little bit to myself. So my 12 commandments is 1, be Sasha. So what that means is be true to myself. Just because something is good for somebody else doesn't mean that's good for me. Just because Claire likes something doesn't mean that I'm going to like it too. So I have to be true to myself and do the things that I like and the things that will improve me. There is only love. Don't spout hate, share love. Act the way I want to feel or be. So if I want to be happy, I act happy. If I want to feel energetic, act energetic. 4, let it go. There's no point in holding on to things. You just gotta let it go. Even sing the song. Whatever you gotta do.
Let it go.
I do that. When I get really upset, I start singing that.
And you know what? Life's too short to hold on to this anger and grudge and resentment.
Exactly. 5, stop judging / keeping score. So keeping score is a huge thing I used to do in the relationship. It's so easy to do. But I also find that it's so easy to judge others. And so this is just a reminder of myself, like everyone's going through their own things. It's okay. Take a step back. Don't judge them and move on. And in a relationship, don't keep track of how many times I'm doing the dishes versus Tiffany. You know, it all works out at the end. 6, think before speaking. This is just an additional reminder of making sure that I tend to get really angry and just spout anger, and it's just kind of like a mindfulness. 7, do it now. Anything like instead of dreading it, just get it out of the way. 8, enjoy the process. Basically, take a moment to enjoy what you are doing now. Like Claire and I enjoy this moment of us doing this podcast.
Yes, on a beautiful Saturday, we are enjoying this moment.
9, identify the problem. Basically, figure out the solution. So in last episode, we used the acronym HALT. to figure out what's the underlying reason why you're upset. This is a similar, remind yourself, figure out what the problem is and what needs to be solved versus just getting angry and
lashing out.
Exactly.
And reacting.
10, keep things in perspective. 11, be present. And 12, make mindful purchases. Mindful purchases, that's a big one for me because once I get on Amazon, I get a little crazy.
Hey, that free shipping, you know?
Oh, let me add this to my cart. Let me add that to my cart.
Yeah, it's free shipping. Shipping's like $2.99. Yes. Oh, that's awesome. I think I want to implement my own 12 commandments too.
And that's why I have them on my phone because I look at my phone all the time.
Yep.
So it's a constant reminder of my commandments.
Now for me, a huge book, I actually gave you a copy of this, is The 4 Agreements.
Oh yeah.
So Gretchen Rubin has her 12 commandments and Don Miguel Ruiz has 4 agreements.
And it's a really quick read for those of you who want to read it.
Yeah, it's quick, but it's very poignant, and the lessons in it are just mind-blowing. It's so simple that it's like, it can't be that simple, but then it is. The synopsis of the book is that the author reveals the sources of self-limiting beliefs that rob us of joy and create needless suffering. The 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your words, speak with integrity with yourself and others. And he goes on to talk about how powerful words can be, and the way you speak will affect others on a profound level.
If you tell someone they're stupid, that's going to affect them.
Oh yeah. 100%.
If you tell someone they're beautiful, that also affects them in a positive way.
There you go. Both sides. And the second agreement is don't take anything personal. And how people are acting and what they say is a reflection and a projection of their own reality. And I'd like to add, of their own pain and suffering that's buried deep inside that they may or may not be aware of.
A good example of that is I saw a psychic a while ago. She did like a free reading, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go do this.
I want to do that, by the way.
And she read me like a book that I was in a lot of pain. It was still like before I went to therapy, so I was still like not really great mentally. She told me, she was like, someone has been really mean to you in your life.
Yes.
Hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
And she was like, but you need to pray for them because the reason why they lashed out at you like that was because they were suffering. And then I talked to somebody who knew that person and I explained that, and they were like, well, yeah, and then went into the things that affected them, and it was really eye-opening to understand that they were lashing out because they were in pain. It wasn't because of what I did. And that was almost freeing a little bit, like it's their problem, not yours.
It's amazing that you talk about freedom, because he says that's like needless suffering, because then you take what was said to you and you internalize it.
Yep.
And then it becomes your reality, and then it affects you. But then really in that moment you can just let it go. You can just choose to let it go. Let it go. Oh my God.
A really good episode of American Housewife where that song was used for one of their kids' anxiety or something. And you should check it out. It's really funny. I'll link it below.
Number 3 is don't make assumptions. Have the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. And this ends a lot of needless suffering. Let's go back to the dishes. You assume that the dishes would be done at the end of the day or at the end of the meal because that's how you like it. If it really bothered you that much, you can either do it yourself or you can ask for it to be done. But the assumption is that we operate in the world thinking that other people have the same exact preference and needs and that we want on ourselves.
One thing with therapy that I finally realized is I always expected my wife to know what I wanted without actually telling her what I wanted.
Like she could read your mind, right?
Yeah. And that's not really how it works. And it took me a really long time to realize that. And it's so true. It's like you have to tell other people what you want, what your expectations of them are, in order for them to actually know what you're looking for.
Yeah. Otherwise, they just continue status quo because, hey, you're not saying anything, and they'll just operate based on what they think is right in that moment. I love this. When you take the word assume, it breaks down to ass. Of you and me. We've all heard it, right? But it's so true. How many times do we make assumptions?
Thousands a day.
Exactly. Assumptions on other people because we're lacking the courage to just ask for clarification. And it's just the easy, simple way.
Think about how many times you get angry and someone says, "What's wrong?" You go, "I'm fine."
Say it like that in that tone, and they know you're not fine.
Yeah, but because you're not voicing what they did wrong to you in your eyes, or what's bothering you, they can't rectify it. They can't apologize for it. They can't do anything to improve it.
Fix it. Yes. Yeah, that's needless suffering right there. You can just fix the problem right then and there. But then people won't. And it's just like, wow, how many times have I done that?
It's simple but hard.
It is. But once you do it, it's just so freeing. You realize just, oh my God, life could be so much easier. And the assumption that, oh, people should know this automatically. It's common courtesy. Well, it's not. That was a big takeaway for me. And then the fourth agreement is to always do your best. In any situation, do your best. And this can change moment to moment, day by day, mood by mood. Again, we talked about the HALT acronym. Let go of any self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret.
I think a good example of this, it's like maybe today your best is just getting out of bed. Maybe your best is taking 5 minutes to clean up the room. Maybe your best is running a marathon. It's going to vary from day to day. And your mood, especially if you're suffering from depression or any other type of ailment,
or stress,
it's all going to affect. But if you try to put your best foot forward, it's going to be a lot better for you.
Yeah, and also know that other people are also trying their best in that moment. You guys might not be on the same, quote, best level in that exact moment of interaction, but if you come from a place of acceptance and understanding and compassion, just knowing that other people are doing their best and you are doing your best, again, it's that needless suffering.
It's like this. When I was in college, I'd never really played a sport before, and I joined the lacrosse team, and I played lacrosse. And one thing that I noticed is I was the slowest person on the team, slowest physically. When we ran, I was the slowest because I'd never really worked out. I was never a runner. I was always putting myself down, being like, oh, I was trying my best. I was putting as much effort into it as I could. And I was always like, oh my God, I'm so slow. I gotta at least keep up with the team. I gotta push myself, blah, blah, blah. And then later on, I found out that they were all inspired by me trying my hardest, and that pushed them to try harder.
That is amazing.
Because they were looking at me putting in so much effort, and they were like, wow, they knew that I had never played a sport before, and all the effort that I was putting in to at least try to be at least somewhat beneficial to them made them all improve themselves.
That is amazing. That reminds me of a time when we used to go to the Zumba class. It's so much fun, and there's this new person in the class. They were in that class and they were doing their best and they were missing steps. But I looked at that person and I was like, go, good for you. You are amazing. You're an inspiration. You're here and you're doing your best and you're trying it. And kudos to you for really stepping out of your comfort zone and trying something to better yourself. So all the respect for for that. And it's
and
amazing.
so if you put your best effort in, even if it's just trying to keep up or trying to at least like run for like 5 minutes straight, like you putting that effort in,
people notice,
is really beneficial.
Yeah.
My next book is The 5-Second Rule: Transform Your Life, Work, and Confidence with Everyday Courage by Mel Robbins. Now, I talked about this a little bit in the last episode, and basically the synopsis is, in 5 seconds, your brain can talk you out of anything. And Mel Robbins explains the psychology behind this phenomenon. Your brain is actually wired to talk you out of things that aren't part of your routine or things that make you even the slightest bit uncomfortable. It's extremely important that when you have an instinct to act on something that can improve your life, that you do not let your brain talk you out of it. This is where the 5-second rule comes in. When you have an instinct to act, before your brain can talk you out of it, distract your brain by counting down from 5 and launch yourself, actually move into action like a rocket. The book is filled with examples of people that use the 5-second rule to combat procrastination, weight loss, anxiety, depression, and even PTSD. My takeaway is it's an easy concept. Oh, just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. But it's hard. It takes practice. I have tried this
too.
Definitely takes courage.
You can count down to 1 and then it's launch time and then you're frozen. Like,
yeah. Because like one thing that I've caught myself doing is like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just keep doing it. Okay, one more 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll actually get up and do it. Yeah. So it definitely, the concept is very easy, but the execution is extremely hard because you actually have to make the effort. But if you actually push yourself and make the effort, the more often you do it, the more you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. It becomes a habit that actually helps you to do things in your life. You're afraid to speak at a meeting? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, speak at the meeting. You don't want to exercise? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. You're still not going to want to exercise, but just do it anyway. You know, it's a really, really good concept. And one thing she used it for the first time she ever used the rule, before she even had a name for it really, she did it to get herself out of bed in the morning when her life was falling apart and all she wanted to do was sleep in because that was the only thing that made her feel good was sleeping. And so one day she was just like, all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and she got her butt out of bed even if she didn't want to. And I think that's really what is so powerful about this rule, is that in 5 seconds you can change your life
by taking that first step. And then momentum carries, you know. Once you just get your butt off the couch, you put your shoes on, before you know it, you're walking and you're feeling great. And you're like, let me go for another mile. Before you know it, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And that instant snowball.
Exactly a point she makes in the book. Because an object in motion stays in motion.
Yes.
We all know this. This is
law of physics.
Exactly. And that applies to you as well. If you're sitting on the couch, you're not going to want to move. But if you're already up and moving, you're going to go clean off the table. And then you're going to be like, oh, you know what? Let me do the laundry. Oh, let me do this. And you're going to continually move because you're already up and doing stuff. So some really good quotes I have for this is, you can't control how you feel, but you can always choose how you act. So you might not feel like going for a run. You might not feel like getting up. But you can choose to go for that run anyway and get up anyway.
And then guess what happens after? You feel amazing.
You feel much better.
Yes.
For me, if I went for a run, would not feel so great. But I'm still trying to figure out how and when I can implement working out into my life. But people have used it in the book to make healthier decisions, such as going to the store or going out for lunch. And, let me get a burger. Oh, wait, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let me get a salad. You know, things like that. You can use it to just completely change your thought patterns too. Like if you are starting to have negative thoughts and you catch yourself, you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, positive thought. And you just directly change yourself. One thing that I think is really important too that they mention in this book is Mel Robbins refers to Picasso. Everyone knows who Picasso is. He's a famous painter, and he created nearly 100 masterpieces in his life. But what people don't know is that he created more than 50,000 pieces of art. Wow. And only 100 of them are masterpieces. So basically, success is a numbers game, and you really just gotta keep at it. You 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do an action, it doesn't pay off, doesn't matter. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, continue on to do another action.
Yeah, keep going, keep doing it, and something will stick.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love this quote that you put, that you're one decision away from a completely different life. Like an example that I experienced with that quote, I was at a networking event. They had a discussion panel, and then after the discussion panel and Q&A, they always open it up to the floor. And they have about like a limited time, like 10 minutes or so at the end of the Q&A, where entrepreneurs can come up and pitch. And it's, you know, there's no order. Anybody can come up and just do their elevator pitch. And I almost didn't do it. I didn't know the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 yet, but essentially I can apply it to this scenario where I was like, all right, I'm going to go, I'm going to pitch. And I did it. My heart was racing. I didn't want to go. I did it. Where I pitched, I found an amazing person who was in the audience. If I hadn't pitched, I wouldn't have made this connection and met this amazing person who then introduced me to a bunch of other ideas and situations and
yeah, they
resources.
heard your idea and
yes.
They felt passionate about it too.
Yes, and you know, if I had just stayed in my seat and not done a thing about it, I wouldn't have been connected to this amazing person full of resources and passionate about my vision too. So it's amazing how, yeah, I mean, you're one decision away from a completely different life.
Yeah, it really is. And that's really just something that's so powerful about this book, is not only does it give you the tool to change your life, it also goes into and gives you examples of people who have changed their life as well, including Mel Robbins, the person who wrote the book. She turned her life completely around. Like her cards were getting rejected at the grocery store when she's trying to buy groceries for her family, and she completely turned her life around. And now she is making a lot of money, and she's set for life pretty much.
Because of the actions, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yep.
Another book that was just super eye-opening for me is by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Awaken to Your Life's Purpose. Oprah actually did a podcast with Eckhart Tolle, and they discuss each chapter of the book. And she calls this book a wake-up call for the entire planet, one reader at a time. It helps us distance ourselves from our egos and to open ourselves to a higher self. It helps us to stop creating our own suffering and obsessing over the past and what the future might be, to put ourselves in the now. So when I first read this book, I thought I knew what an ego was, but the way this book explains the ego, it made me realize, like, wow, I've been operating my whole life with this ego, which is basically, in a very brief sentence, it's identifying and attaching myself to like possessions and the work and the status and recognition, my level, just over attachment, and identifying with those temporary labels. And I was like, wow, that's basically been my whole life. The problem with that is that once you lose your quote-unquote identity, this identity that you've wrapped yourself around, and these are all of these possessions, it's really all temporary when you break it down. It's at any point, like for example, if you're attached status at work and something happens and you lose your job, then what? You fall into like this identity crisis. Yep. You're just totally lost without that possession. And it's funny because they go into like these kids, like these little kids, they love their toy truck, let's say, and they love it and they're playing with it and they're having a great time playing with this truck. and then the truck gets taken away. Let's say the parent decides, okay, no more playtime, let me take your truck away. This kid is crying and screaming and throwing temper tantrums like the whole world is about to end because my toy truck was taken away. And that applies to adults too. But then the toy truck gets replaced with, oh, my fancy car, my Ferrari, my job, my spouse, my money. It's gone and taken away.
Oh, yeah. Now, does it talk about, the title says, A New Earth, Awaken Your Life's Purpose. Does it go into figuring out your life's purpose?
For me, it was just like an internal shift that happened. And I started kind of really finding out the purpose of life. One of the purposes of life is for us to awaken and realize the illusion and the dreams that we've been led to believe are true and your true self. So, and then once you come from that place, then like all of the stuff that doesn't matter just falls away. So I know it's very conceptualized, difficult to wrap your head around. I get it. But that's why I actually read the book in conjunction to the listening to the podcast. And we'll link the podcast, that other podcast, down in the description below. Highly recommend chapter 3, where they talk about the ego. Again, like the 4 Agreements was eye-opening, and this is even further into that. Just like a huge shift in identity and my beliefs and what matters in this world. So
powerful.
And a quote that I love: the most common ego identifier have to do with the possessions, the work that you do, the social status and recognition, knowledge and education, physical appearance, special abilities, relationship, person, and family beliefs. No, family history, belief systems, and often nationalistic, racial, religious, and other collective identifications. And none of these is you. I
would say media plays a big portion, because you're watching these things, you're seeing the advertisements,
you're consuming this information, and you're internalizing it, and you're identifying with it.
Exactly.
It's just stripping away all of that, and what are you left with? Oh, so powerful. Yeah, it's a hefty book to read through. Also not very thick. Highly recommend reading the book and then listening to the podcast after you read the chapter, just so you get a deeper understanding. Yes, and it's actually coming straight from the author himself. It's him and Oprah.
It's a nice interactive experience.
Oh my God, yes. I love that. I love books that have a podcast with it. And so like you can, and then also that it's the author of the book talking about it. So it's like there's no misinterpretation.
My next book is Imagine Heaven, Near-Death Experiences, God's Promises, and the Exhilarating Future That Awaits You by John Burke. Now, I'm not trying to convert anybody. Please feel free to believe your religious beliefs. This is only my opinion of this book that was given to me, and to me, it completely changed my life. The book dives into near-death experiences, also known as NDEs. And the author, John Burke, looks at experiences from around the world, different people from different backgrounds, children, adults, people with different religious beliefs, people who might be deaf or blind, and compared all of these. And he did go through and he sorted out ones that he didn't believe were true. But basically he found that all of these near-death experiences had a common theme. And he goes through all of these, explains them in great detail, and also kind of syncs up to some of the Bible passages so you can kind of see how it relates. My takeaway: this cannot be a coincidence. There's no way that all these experiences can be the same.
Especially since they're different ages, different parts of the world, different religions. Like
there was one person that was a Hindu from India, and they had a near-death experience. Their experience syncs up to someone who is a doctor who doesn't believe in God. And all these experiences combined together, it's just, to me, was eye-opening and really made me find my faith again. I kind of have a mixed feelings about religion growing up. I was pretty religious as a child, but then kind of fell out of practice or believing because I just didn't believe that there could be a world with so much pain and suffering and the experiences that I went through there. Why would God want me to be suffering the way that I'm suffering? This book, it made me realize that the only thing God wants from us is to love one another. It's all about love. And all these near-death experiences, the one common theme when they were having their life review, when they were meeting Jesus, the one question was, what do you have to show me? How did you love? It didn't matter what your big fancy car, your house, how much money you made, the ego. It was all about how did you love? And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to become Mother Teresa and give up your job and go and
help orphans.
Yes, if you feel passionate about that, totally do it. But it's also about loving the people around you. Like, you can make big impacts to people's lives by just loving those around you.
Isn't that a teaching of the Bible? Or love your neighbor as you love yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's why that is in the Bible. And
there's some controversy over this because there's the Old Testament God and the New Testament God. And the Old Testament God was very punishing and angry and hurtful. And then the New Testament is very loving and caring and
forgiving.
Forgiving, yes. The way the author describes that is that think about you created something and then that thing decided to turn their back on you after you created it. So of course you're going to be angry and upset and punish them. That's what the Old Testament God is. And God, as he evolved, he then realized, you know what, I don't want just blind faith that people just follow me just because I said so. I want people who actually want to be with me and actually want to have faith in me. And
not forcing
himself on them. Yes. And that's what changed, and that's the New Testament God, the God that's all loving and all caring and all forgiving. So the concept is that if you love and you believe in God, you will get to go to heaven. And he kind of explains a little bit about heaven and how amazing it is. He also explains some instances where people had a near-death experience and did not go to heaven. Mm-hmm. And some of the bad experiences that people had, and those experiences, one story, this person died. He did not believe in God. He rejected God in his life, and he ended up being tortured, being literally ripped to shreds by beings. And he prayed to God, a God that he didn't believe in. He was like, God, please help me. And he was saved by God. So the takeaway is that if you don't love God, if you don't believe in God, then God will let you choose not to go to heaven. And you can choose to not go to heaven. The thing is that God is love. And so if you don't go to heaven, the opposite is no love. And you have that choice, and you get to make that choice. So if anything happens, you want to go towards the light. Let me tell you.
That's why
based on my experience of this book.
I've heard that before, people saying go towards the light. That's why.
A good quote that kind of explains a little bit more about this is, everything about Jesus is love. His love for you is so personal, it seems as if it is only for you. You come to realize that he has cared for you forever and will continue to care for you forever. His love is alive and is more than just a set. You are becoming his love. You are his love. Jesus loves us completely. And a lot of people that talk about going to heaven in their near-death experiences and meeting Jesus or being of light, they feel such a sense of love and compassion that they don't even want to go back. And that the only thing that brings them back is like they remember their children and they like, I love my children, I need to be there for them. Or Jesus or the being of light tells them it's not their time and there's still more for them to do. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Honestly, after I read this book, I don't think I've ever been that happy. I felt like a huge weight was taken off of my shoulders. I felt like I didn't have to work so hard. All I had to do was think about love. one of my 12 commandments, there is only love. What can I do today to put love out into the world? And I don't have to sit there and ace a test or be the best person, like the most successful person in the world. All I have to do is love. And then I will be rewarded when I die in heaven.
That's amazing. I also read the book. I loved it. And just to go back to the love, it's amazing to think that God loved you from when you were just a baby, when you were in your mom's womb. You were loved right off the bat. You didn't need to work to deserve God's love. And he loved you and put you on this earth, this spirit in this body, in this time, because he loved you. And just,
he created you because you have a purpose on this earth. And that purpose might just be to be the best version of yourself. We all have our different personality quirks and everything because God gave them to us. And all the negative thoughts and all the bad things that happen, that is not God.
No.
God is all the love and the good things that happen to us. He's the daytime. He's the one who put the sun here so that we can get around and be happy and do fun things in the sun. The darkness, anything like that, is not him.
And also to think that you are just loved is a huge burden, like not having to prove yourself and prove your worthiness and do all this stuff to earn it, I guess.
Yeah, you don't have to earn it. He just loves you.
Just like, I mean, my sister-in-law and my brother are expecting their first child, and she texted us a sonogram picture, and I was just so amazed. I was just like, this baby, all the group messaging was like, oh, it's so cute, so whatever, and there's so much love. We love this baby already, and it's like, it's not even born yet. And imagine, that's God looking at each of us.
Yeah. We are all his children, and so he looks at us like his children. He loves us unconditionally.
Yeah. My third book also ties in with yours in a different way. It's called The Universal Christ by Richard Rohr. And this book is also accompanied with a podcast. The podcast is called Another Name for Everything. And if you want to go along with the book and listen to the podcast, definitely listen to season 1 of that podcast. Just like the Oprah and Eckhart Tolle book, they go chapter by chapter and they go into each of the meanings and the teachings. And it's also, Father Richard Rohr is also in the podcast too. So it's the author himself talking about the themes and the things that he writes about in his book. And I tell you, I've read a bunch of his books. I am so amazed by this man and his work, and I recommend all of them. But a good place to start is The Universal Christ, and to go along with the podcast. This book, and just like you, Sasha, I'm not trying to convert anybody. I respect everybody else's beliefs and their uniqueness and qualities. But this book really changed my relationship with God, with Jesus and the Christ. If you read the book, you'll understand what that means. And it really took the teachings of the Bible, things that I learned growing up in church every Sunday and Sunday school and whatever. They got a lot of it correct, but they also got a lot of it wrong. Yes, let me explain. A lot of it is correct, but there are some aspects of it, and Father Richard Rohr goes into it and the reasons why and how that came to be. For example, he talks about the dualistic thinking. And the dualistic thinking is like either or. Things are either black or white, right or wrong, good or bad. And the human mind is very dualistic in nature because it can't process things like infinity, God, suffering, grace, sexuality, and death, and even love. Like infinite love, infinite. We can't grasp that, so we have to put it in small, measurable, understandable terms. of either or. And that's why the teachings of the typical church Bible readings and study is the way that it is. But he challenges your thinking on that. And I've gone from that dualistic thinking myself to the non-dualistic thinking, which is this and. It's not or, it's and. It is all of that, and life and people and things are a lot messier than black or white. It's both.
Very true.
Yeah, and the non-dualistic thinking takes the wholeness out of every situation of the mind, heart, soul, senses, everything. And it allows you to love them as they are.
And I think relating this to Imagine Heaven is one of the concepts in the book Imagine Heaven is that heaven can't really be explained in our language.
Yes.
The visuals, everything. Most of the people who had those experiences said, there are no words to describe the beauty. There are no words to describe the love I felt.
Yes.
There are no words. And one person put it as, I learned about 3 dimensions in geometry. And when I had my near-death experiences, I learned that there are way more dimensions. And that is the best he can describe the difference between our reality and heaven. And it's really comes back to, you can't really describe God and all these things using our words, which is why
vocabulary.
Exactly. And that is why we often think of heaven as kind of being like church. When reality is, it's probably so amazing.
Heaven is now. Church is now. You can continually pray all day. You don't have to be Father Richard or even challenges going to church on Sundays. It's like you don't need to be in church to be with God.
No, church sometimes, I'm not saying this is is everything, but church often becomes, I have to go to church so I can show everybody I'm a good Christian. But your relationship with God is between you and him and no one else. So whether you go to church and pray, or whether you just pray sitting on the couch watching TV, you take a moment to pray, or you pray before dinner or pray before bed, that is your relationship with him.
And Father Richard Rohr even takes it a step further and says that God is in you. You are the incarnation and the connection and the divinity within you.
And Imagine Heaven talks about when you go to heaven, you don't even need to communicate by speaking to each other. You just communicate it by thinking, and God talks to you directly to your mind. So it's that same thought of God is with you, God is in you, God is by your side all the time. And when you have your life review, they show you everything that's ever happened in your life. And they see everything. They see your thoughts, they see your actions, they see everything.
It's oneness. It's oneness with God and oneness with each other. And the beautiful thing about church, I like going to church. I like being with other people and other same religion, and I like going to different churches too, just to check it out. And but anyways, one of the things that I like about the Catholic Church is the communion, and that is an invitation to all of us. We are all the same, coming to God's table and having a meal, a communion, and that symbolizes our oneness with each other and with God.
Beautifully said.
Yes. And then, just another thing that Father Richard Rohr challenges is in this book that really blew my mind is the reason why God sent Jesus in the incarnation. And it's not to pay for our sins, like we were taught to believe in Sunday school. I'll have you read the book to find out why.
I was like, why? I want to know.
Now you got to read the book. I'm telling you, it's good. When you read that passage, it's like, boom! Oh my God!
It's interesting because I I've not read that book. I have a lot of conversations with one of my friends about religion, and she's actually helped me. She was the one who gave me the book Imagine Heaven, and we had a lot of conversations that really impact me. And she's very religious, so her and I have a lot of conversations about that. And she explained that the reason why God gave us Jesus was to extend a hand out to us and say, I am giving you a part of me so that you can be a part of me.
But he does talk about that, but that's not the full picture of his theory as to why. I don't want to give it up.
No, it's fine. I'll read it.
Yes. It's excellent. The podcast too is just amazing. Just a real, like, all of these books just are really, really powerful. It changes your thinking. And
even if you aren't a Christian and you don't believe in God, these are still some good books to read to get perspective on things. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a non-believer, John Burke, who wrote Imagine Heaven, didn't believe in God until he started doing his research. Really? And he did all this research, and he started a church. He used to be an engineer, and he quit his job to start a church for non-believers so that he could help them bridge the gap of not believing to believing. To me, I find that these are very helpful, and even if you just want to read the stories about the near-death experiences, totally worth a read.
I'll tell you, when I started reading that book, that after you had given me the book to read, I was just like amazed. Again, I felt like a sense of relief, like just to know that God unconditionally loves me, and oh my God, I actually don't have to prove myself. Mm-hmm. That was like a huge burden. Because this whole time I've been fighting for my deserving at the table.
Well, I feel like a lot of churches preach that.
Yes, that's how we were raised.
Yeah. We went to the same church growing up, and we went to the same Sunday school, and that's all they teach. They teach you have to be good. You have to follow these rules in order to get into heaven. But the real thing is you get into heaven as long as you believe in God and you ask for forgiveness and you do your best to be a good person. Mm-hmm. And that is all that's asked of you. Just be a good person. Be kind to others, as Ellen would say.
And that's not even like a religious thing either. Yeah. It's just like a humanity thing. Like, you know?
I could go into this, but if you break down all the different religions, they all have a similar concept. Yes. Not necessarily like one deity or many deities. Like it's the concept of you should be kind to other people.
Yes. That's the common theme between all the major world religions is just the goodness of yourself to others.
I would just like to give a shout out to another book by Gretchen Rubin. Yes, I kind of became a little obsessed with her this year. But the book is called Better Than Before, What I Learned About Making and Breaking Habits to Sleep More, Quit Sugar, Procrastinate Less, and Generally Build a Happier Life. She has broken down how to develop better habits. And it's really beneficial. I'll let you guys read it, but she has 4 fundamental types that she calls the 4 tendencies. And she nailed me on the head. I'm what you call an obliger, someone who has trouble meeting goals that are driven internally versus externally, meaning that I am better at achieving goals when other people are depending on me than just using my own self to propel myself forward.
Like self-will.
Yeah.
Willpower.
So for example, a good example is the lacrosse. When I played lacrosse in college, I pushed myself really far to work out and exercise so that I could benefit the team, so that they would benefit from me. But now I have trouble exercising because it's not for a team, it's for me. And it's benefiting me, and I'm just like, it doesn't really matter.
But you know that you deserve to be healthy and get all the benefits.
I know all those stuff logically.
Yeah.
But actually executing it is a different story.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I know. I'm a work in progress. Yeah. We all are.
Hey, we all absolutely. You just said it. We're all a work in progress. It takes time to build habits. It takes time to break out of these old thinking patterns and behaviors, really.
Yeah.
And just because you might not be, right on where you want to be, it doesn't mean that you're not there yet.
Yeah. If you are trying to develop some better habits, highly recommend giving that a shot.
This brings us to our dare. We dare you to read one of these books that we suggested and take one actionable step to improve your life.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a review. Feel free to contact us using our email or give us a shout out on our socials found in our description. Tell us what book you read and what you learned from it. We look forward to sharing our next episode with you.
We'll talk to you guys next time.
Just remember, fear is a 4-letter word that can stand for
forget everything and run, or face everything and rise.
We dare you to rise.